Supreme Court gun decision astounds survivors of the Las Vegas shooting when concertgoers started streaming into Heather Gooze's bar on October 1, 2017. At the Route 91 Music Festival in Las Vegas, she was serving drinks and they were screaming and covered in blood. A shooter positioned at the top of a Las Vegas hotel had started shooting at the celebrations below. He left almost 400 people injured and killed 60 people. Thanks to a bump stock mechanism he added to his gun, he was able to carry out what remains the bloodiest mass shooting in U.S. history. After the tragedy, bump stocks, a modification that turns a rifle into a machine gun, were outlawed by then-President Donald Trump. Survivors of the attack hailed the legislation, which was an uncommon instance of the U.S. changing its gun laws in the wake of a mass shooting. Because the National Rifle Association and a Republican president, who would typically be against any kind of gun regulation, supported the ban, it was all the more remarkable. The U.S. Supreme Court overturned the prohibition on Friday, ruling 6-3 that the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives had exceeded its jurisdiction by enacting the legislation. For survivors such as Ms. Gooze, a leftist who considered Trump's ban to be phenomenal, the decision felt like a step backward for the nation. She asked the BBC, "Who has ever used a bump stock for good? A civilian has no justification for using a mass shooting device." The 50-year-old Ms. Gooze can still clearly recall the horror of trying to save those hit by the gunman's more than 1,000 shots, as well as the desperate struggle to escape the devastation. Regarding one victim she attempted to save, she remarked, "I had my finger in the bullet hole of one of our angels in the back of their head." She spent hours by the body of another victim, calling the family on a phone she discovered in their pocket. She remarked, "I saw people's lives change right in front of my face and my own." Brittany Quintero's life was one of those lives. Even though she and her buddy made it out of the shooting unharmed, Ms. Quintero has spent years healing from the pain the incident caused. She said to the BBC that she was in shock with the Supreme Court's ruling. "To be honest," she said, "it feels like another slap in the face." The 41-year-old Quintero expressed her doubts that stricter gun laws would be effective in stopping mass massacres. In her opinion, there aren't enough options that address mental health. "Taking away people's Second Amendment rights is not going to solve these things that keep happening," she remarked, alluding to the U.S. Constitution's guarantees of gun ownership. If someone is determined to do something, they will find a way or employ other strategies. She still believes that the Supreme Court erred in restoring access to bump stocks, though. The Supreme Court's ruling did not depress all of the survivors of Route 91. In a closed Facebook group, several were debating the news, according to Ms. Gooze, and some community members had replied that the decision didn't disturb them. "We need them to maintain what little freedom we still have. A gun is not the problem." One survivor responded in a note that Ms. Gooze read to the BBC, "The government is the enemy. In the U.S., gun violence continues to be a serious problem for public safety." According to the Gun Violence Archive, there have been 215 mass shootings across the U.S. so far in 2024. Their approach defines a mass shooting as when 4 or more people are shot or killed, not counting the gunman. Ms. Quintero and Ms. Gooze bemoaned how politicized the gun argument had become. "I don't think a real law or decision will be made to solve the gun violence issue in my lifetime," Ms. Gooze stated. A divided Congress has made it unlikely that federal legislation banning bump stocks will pass anytime soon, as attempts to do so have repeatedly stalled. Trump, who is vying for president once more, declared that he would accept the Supreme Court's ruling overturning his policy and reiterated his support for easier access to firearms. Caroline Leavitt, a spokesman for the Trump campaign, stated in a statement, "The court has spoken, and their decision should be respected." President Trump is proud to have the support of the NRA, and has been and will continue to be a fierce defender of Americans' Second Amendment rights. The owner of the gun store who successfully challenged the Supreme Court's prohibition on bump stocks celebrated his win and claimed to have stopped the government from outlawing other gun parts in a video posted on X, formerly Twitter. His claim that the Trump administration overreached in attempting to regulate bump stocks similar to machine guns was supported by the nation's highest court. Gun store owner Michael Cargill declared, "I stood and fought, and the bump stock case is going to be the case that saves everything."